Right, welcome to another episode of the Powerful Lives podcast. Today, no other than the legend, Joe Egan. Big Joe Egan.
Big Joe Egan.
Okay, Joe Egan, here's where it's at. You're saying KSI's backing you for millions of pounds when they can't pay me 200 what they owe me. But here's one for you, mate. Tell that rat next to you, that pineapple, wire me my money across what he owes me, and once it's in my account, then we might be able to do some business. For being disrespectful, Joe, you're going to have to fight me anyway when you see me. So let's hope you can, so you can get a few quid out of it, mate. Because when I see you, mate, it's coat off. I'm telling you now. Not interested in talking about those people. Can we move on, please? Let's move on. We're not here to do interviews on BS.
John Fury, I haven't challenged you. I've accepted your challenge. Any 58-year-old man on the planet brave enough to fight you. I'm that man, John. I'm brave enough to fight you. I'm ready, willing, and very able to fight you. There's two spellings of the word fear, John. The fighter spells it, face everything and rise, like it says on the back of my shirt, John. I've been a fighter all my life. The ordinary person spells fear, forget everything and run. How do you spell fear, John? Face everything and rise, or forget everything and run? In the words of that great boxing referee, Mills Lane, let's get it on.
I sit down with Joe Egan.
Oh, God, I love Joe. You know
what he said to me? He said to me, he was describing the first time he was your sparring partner. And he said, Cuss said to him, just get over there, get in line or whatever. And 3 or 4 guys were ahead of him. And they go in the ring with you, and you knocked every one of them down. And he said, my legs were shaking, my knees were, he said, I had to get in the ring. He said, and you hit him a punch in the chest. He said it was like lightning struck in his chest. He said he felt it all through his back.
He never told me that.
Yeah, that's what he said.
He never told me that.
And then he said, but I didn't go down. I didn't go down. And he said, you called him the baddest white man on the planet. The toughest white man on the planet.
Looking powerful as well, mate.
Thank you very much, Brett. Thank you, Jim. Yeah, I mean, I've been training. I was hoping that John Fury would take this fight because he's called out. You're familiar, I'm sure, what's going on. We've been speaking about it. Yeah. He was calling out any 58-year-old on the planet that was brave enough, macho enough to get into the ring and fight him. I've stepped forward, but he doesn't want to know now.
So what's happening? Is it just gone quiet on his side, or have you heard anything back at all?
He's gone very tame. He's gone very quiet. That's for sure. He's mellowed. He was very aggressive. He was very aggressive. Even his son Shane said, "Step up to the mark, Dad. You've called it on." And Tyson, his other boy Tyson Fury, he's made a comment: "Be careful what you wish for." Now, he didn't say be careful what you wish for, Joe. So I know it was directed at his dad. His dad was wishing for a fight. But like all bullies, when you front them, they wilt. And he's wilted. But the sad part about it is, and this is the sad part about it, that Misfits, Mams and KSI have took a great interest because they've got bitter rivalry with the Furies. And they've took a great interest, and they've dangled a carrot of a lot of money for this fight. And when they mentioned the money, 34 years ago when I was fighting pro, I was getting £5,000 a fight. And that was good money then. I wasn't a contender or anything like that. So I was happy being a full-time sparring partner. I was earning a lot more money as a full-time sparring partner. But now, at 58 years of age, to be offered this substantial amount of money, it's incredible. And I had the money spent in my mind, as you do.
Which makes it worse.
As you do, yeah, because 3 times on 3 different occasions, this is the 3rd time that I've done this. The first time was when I was offered the Irish professional title. I'd been 7 times Irish amateur champion. I was offered the Irish professional title to fight Kevin McBride, both unbeaten at the time. So the first thing I asked my manager, Mr. Eastwood, how much am I getting? And it was more than the £5,000. So I jogged all that week, spending what I was told I was getting. So I'm jogging, and I'm spending the money in my mind. And the Irish title fight, never came about. The Big Joe film, right? That's the book. Has done ever so well. On my life story, Mike Tyson launched the book in Canary Wharf, and it brought Canary Wharf to a standstill. And then Cass Pennon said, we're going to turn the book into a film. And he had his movie made called Cass.
Yeah.
He told me the amount of money that he had made with the film. And he said, Joe, you're going to make a lot more, because obviously Mike Tyson's input. Mike done a letter of intent. So I'm spending that money as well. But then COVID tragically, sadly hit, and things stopped. The world stopped. God rest the people that died through COVID, and I'm sorry for the losses of the families and the friends that have lost family members. So that was the second time. Now this time, this carrot's been dangled again, and John Fury has pulled the rug from under my feet, which is hurt, I do okay. I work. I'm a bodyguard. I work for two good men. I work for Ali. He has lowest bullion in the jewellery quarter in Birmingham. And John O'Connor has World Civils, and I do both of their security. So I don't drink or smoke or take drugs. I don't gamble. So I get by. I make ends meet. But at this stage of my life, that would have been a lovely pension fund. I'm not giving up on I've tried to go John Fury. I've called him out on his original call out. I've only answered his challenge. And I've done videos and everything else. And he's disappointed me as a fighting man because he comes from fighting stock. He's related to Bartley Gorman, who was the king of the gypsies, one of the toughest gypsies of all time. That's his family. He's related to Paddy Doherty, who's the legendary bare-knuckle fighter with the gypsy community. And his own stock, look at his son, heavyweight champion of the world, So he comes from a good line of fighting stock. And then to bottle it. It's sad, really, because I was expecting him to step up to the mark. And then when he was saying about, I don't want to do it in the ring, it's not good business, we'll go into the barn. And then I thought to myself, what would be good business going into the barn? That's a street fight. I've had thousands of them. No money in street fights. But I'm not giving up. I'm hoping that one day that he might feel the shame and say, come on then, Joe, let's just do it.
I'm surprised. I am surprised that he's not stepped up to the plate after the way he has given it publicly.
He's a bully, Brett. He's a bully because throwing tables and chairs at young YouTubers, and that's what they are. They're young adults. I was at the show in Leeds. I was a guest at KSI and Mams in Leeds, and I don't understand this internet. I'm old school, pigeon post, smoke signals. This is all new. This is all new to me, but it's incredible. And people ask me, "Do you think it's good for boxing?" I think it's great for boxing because it's a whole new audience.
I agree.
And if you've got 100 million people watching KSI boxing, and 1% of them 100 million think, I like this sport, let's start watching professional boxing, let's start watching amateur boxing. That's 1 million people that the sport has gained because of that 100 million fan base that KSI has. And I think that can be only good for boxing. It's like when Andrew Flintoff boxed. They asked me for the newspapers, what do you think? I said, I think it's great. I said, it's got front page news. I said, Andrew Flintoff not Andrew Flintoff, Freddie, excuse me. There's an Andrew as well, isn't there? What's an Andrew Flintoff? What does he do?
I don't know.
It rings a bell, but
yeah. Don't be ringing bells around me. I'll be throwing punches. Don't be ringing bells around boxes. But Freddie Flintoff. Excuse me, Freddie Flintoff. They asked me about Freddie. What did I think? Front page news. I said it's great. I said he's a world-class cricket player. Got the courage to get into a boxing ring. He got in with an American that was 2-0 as a pro, and he gave a good account of himself. He won the fight. But it got front page news. And I said, if his fan base of cricket fans suddenly convert to become boxing fans, the sport's gained a whole new fan base. And I love that because it's the sport I love. I think it's the greatest sport in the world. First and foremost, boxing gives you self-respect and respect for your opponent. And that's such an important thing in life, to have self-respect and respect for other people. And that's what boxing instills in you. And my life, I'm not on a pitchy trail. I don't do the pitchy trail. But my life has been a hard life. Like all fighters come from humble beginnings. People say the fighters come from the gutter. I don't use that terminology because I don't like to say we come from the gutter. We just come from very humble beginnings. I was the eldest of 7 children. I got 4 younger sisters and 2 younger brothers. And my dad came to the UK to work when we were children. Like all the Irish. Ireland's greatest export has always been its people. Whether they go to England, whether they go to America, whether they go to some parts of Europe. Ireland's greatest export has always been its people. And my dad, like a lot of the Irish, went to work abroad. And we didn't see him for maybe 11 months of the year. We might get to see him for a month a year if we were lucky. And my mum did an incredible job. But I was like the man of the house as a young child. My dad would send the money home. You know, we didn't go hungry. But we didn't have luxuries like chocolate biscuits or things like that. You know, my mum would make a feast out of a tin of beans and a piece of toast. You know, she was doing curry beans long before Heinz was doing curry beans, you know. Yeah. And I joke, I said, like, when my mum used to do the curry beans, you dare not imagine our house. You got 7 kids farting, my mum farting, you know. So you dare not imagine. But she could do wonders with very little, you know. She'd make the apple pies. We had an apple tree in the garden, and she'd make the apple pies and the mince pies, and I had a hard childhood, but I had a good childhood.
Probably happier back then than most of these kids are now with everything.
We had very little, you know, but we were happy.
It was simple times.
Yeah, very simple times. We'd make a go-kart and we'd make catapults and climb trees.
Play outside, yeah.
We could do things. But when I came to the UK to visit my dad with my brothers and sisters, he was in Manchester this particular time. And I made my Holy Communion in Manchester. And I was 7 or 8 years of age. And there was a little boy called Richard Fox. And we were going round, and you go round and you visit the Irish families, and they give you a couple of pence on the day you make your communion. Yeah. Anyway, 2 of the local bully boys, they were like 15 or 16, they tried to take my Holy Communion medal. And they held onto my medal and exposed my teeth. And they knocked out my 2 front teeth on the day I made my Holy Communion. But I never got my medal. But I lost my 2 front teeth. And I got bullied in the UK because I had the Irish accent. So I would pick up the English accent to try and mix in. And then when I went home to Dublin, I got bullied in Dublin because I had the English accent, you know. So I've experienced and endured a lot of bullying in my life. And when the bully boys would sort of finish beaching on me, rather than hit my brothers and sisters, I used to jump in and used to say, don't hit them, hit me more, you know. And I could absorb a beating. I could take punishment like you wouldn't believe. I've endured so much physical pain in my life. Incredible, you know, for one man, what I've endured. Like, I've been shot twice. I've been stabbed many times. I've been beaten with batons, baseball bats, scaffolding poles. I've had some bad beatings. So my dad encouraged us, and my brothers, me and my 2 brothers, to box. You know, he said, he can't be there to protect us, unfortunately. So he said, learn to box, to defend yourself and your brothers and sisters. So I was 9. We were in London visiting my dad this time, and we went to the Earlsfield Amateur Boxing Club. And Frank Bruno would box for the Earlsfield Amateur Boxing Club. Keith Truitt, Mick, Mr. Parmenter. It was in Gareth Lane, and the lovely, lovely, lovely environment. You know, Lenny and Alan Jackson, Pat Pasley, Trevor Burbeck, people that I met as a little boy, 9. You remember them, you know. Yeah. And it was a lovely welcome. And then went back to Dublin, and then I went to Corinthians Boxing Club. My dad had boxed for Corinthians as a kid. Maxim McCullough, who won the European gold medalist in 1947, he'd boxed for Corinthians. And the club had burnt down, sadly, and they were using St. Saviour's Boxing Club. So there was too many in the gym. There was 2 boxing clubs using one premises. There was too many for me and my 2 brothers, you know. It was like cramped, you couldn't skip or anything. There was no room. So we went then to Dunno Boxing Club, and that's where I'd done my amateur career in Dunno. And I achieved more than I ever dreamed that I could achieve. I ended up winning 7 Irish titles, 2 under-19s, a junior and 4 senior titles. Paddy Finn, who was the ex-Irish heavyweight champion, was the man of the club, and I wanted to emulate him and become the Irish champion, and I did. I emulated Paddy Finn, which was a major achievement. I dreamed, like all fighters dream, about becoming a champion of the world. I wasn't good enough to become a champion of the world, but to win 7 Irish titles was a major achievement. And it gave me the courage. And it gave me the confidence, because I think I already had the courage. I believe that all fighters have courage. That's something you're born with, you know. You can teach a person skills, but if they haven't got courage, you don't box. You know, you play football, you play golf.
You can't mess about in a boxing
You
ring,
play
can you?
tennis, you play, you know, snooker. You don't play boxing. Any form of full contact, whether it be MMA, jiu-jitsu, karate, kickboxing, it's admirable, because if you can walk to a ring, to a cage, to a mat, to fight full contact, that's a courage, like modern day gladiators. And I think that they are the most admired and respected athletes in the world. You ask any athlete on the planet, who do they admire, who do they respect? It's the fighters. And I just love being part of the boxing. It's the sport that I love, but I do admire and respect and love all fighters all around the world. I've been all over the world. But the boxing, to me, even in the cage, if you watch the cage fights, the best part of the cage fight is the striking. And that's a boxing, you know, from a punch.
Yeah.
You know?
We want to be entertained, don't we? The boxing fans want to be entertained.
Yeah, I think it's great.
We don't.
So I achieved more than I ever dreamed I would achieve by winning 7 Irish titles. And I got the box for Ireland, which was incredible.
Dream come true.
Dream come true. I lost twice to England, which was a bit of a nightmare, because that's how bit the rivals. And it's only rivalry, you know. I live in this country and I love this country. You know, I've got a good life here. And a lot of the Irish have had good lives here. You know, this country has opened its doors to people from all over the world and given them an opportunity to better their lives, make something of themselves. And this country has done that for me, you know, through the films, through the launch of my book, through work, through a lot of things that I wouldn't have them opportunities in Ireland. So I love this country for that. But I didn't like losing twice in the boxing to England. Bobby Wells beat me and Guy Williams beat me, both ABA champions. So I lost to prestige fighters.
Yeah.
I lost to prestige fighters. But I won against America. I won against Italy. I won against Canada. I won against Poland. I won against Wales, which was close to England. But
It was almost made up for it.
almost. But yeah, so I'd had 105 amateur fights. I won 87. I lost 18. But the 18 I lost a good stock. I lost on points to Lennox Lewis, which was a major achievement because he was knocking everybody out.
Did he ever go on to do anything, Lennox Lewis?
Did he what? Did he what? I've had a couple of games of chess with him since.
Yeah.
And he's a chess master.
Yeah.
He's an incredible chess player. I've never beaten him at a game of chess. But please believe me, it's a lot less painful to lose at a game of chess than in a boxing ring with the man. You know, he's a non-merciful puncher. His punch power is probably more forceful than Mike Tyson's punch power.
Really?
Wow.
On one punch.
I never expected to hear that, honestly.
Mike would hit you. Mike would hit you with 2, maybe 3. If you look at Mike's knockouts, right, he'd land the uppercut, which would really stun them, gone. And then he'd land a left hook, or he'd land a second or third shot, you know. Lennox would hone in with that one punch. Gosh. Gone. If Lennox got it on target, if Mike got it on target and Lennox got it on target, I think he would have more of a concussion, more of a complete knockout from Lennox on target. Yeah, I'm trying to put it into the words without being disrespectful to the fighters. You know, because I don't like disrespecting any fighters. But Lennox, if you look at the men that he knocked out with them one bang on target punch, Mike's knocked out some good men, you know. But I was recently doing a show there with Julius Francis, and Julius got up 5 times against Mike Tyson. Some men got up against Mike Tyson. He got up 5 times. Incredible. The courage and the bravery and the chin of that man. But see, when Lennox landed that one power punch, I don't think they were getting
was
up.
it.
Yeah.
I've always said, funny enough, I think Lennox Lewis with Emmanuel Stewart towards the end, I think was almost unbeatable.
Well, the 2 fights that Lennox lost, right? The 2 fights that he lost to Hasim Rahman, he lost to Oliver McCall, right? And both times he wasn't training properly. He was doing an Ocean's 11 film, and he was doing a Nelson Mandela publicity tour. God rest Nelson Mandela, one of the greatest human beings to enter this world. And he got beaten by 2 men that he shouldn't have lost to. There's an old saying, fail to prepare, be prepared to fail. And he went back to the gym, got himself fit, came back and beat both of them in the return matches.
Yeah.
Lennox could have finished his career as an unbeaten champion. But what it is was Lennox was in the shadow of Mike Tyson because Lennox is a very private man. A very private man, a very lovely man, very dignified and a bit of a recluse, really. He keeps himself to himself. Joe Public doesn't want that. Joe Public wants you out in public view, whether it be crashing cars, staggering out of nightclubs, you know, carrying on, doing whatever you're doing. Just be normal.
Yeah.
You know, just be normal. People make mistakes every day of the week. We all have a car crash. We all do something stupid in our lives. That he has done nothing stupid, cast the first stone, you know what I mean? So Mike's made a lot of stupid things happen in his life. But Joe Public relates to that, you know? And that's why Mike was in the public eye a lot more than Lennox. And he got the praise a lot more than Lennox. But Lennox was an incredible fighter. It just happened that Mike was just out there.
Out there, yeah.
Yeah.
Even now, like I feel
Still
that,
out there. Saying about Mike, what I'm so impressed with, 25 years past his prime. The man's 57, he'll be 58 June 30th. So he's 25 years past his fighting prime. That he still generates the excitement with his name all these years on to a whole new audience of fight fans. It's incredible. And to think that I'm getting into box with Jake Paul, it's only an exhibition. Jake Paul's probably boxed him a million times on Nintendo and Game Boy and PlayStation. Now Jake Paul's getting the opportunity to get in and exchange punches. I know there'll be pulled punches. Mike's not going to hit him with his full force. He couldn't hit Jake Paul with his full force. But for Mike to be still generating tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars at this stage, it shows you what sort of an impact he has made in the boxing world. Youngest ever heavyweight champion of the world at 20. He beat Floyd Patterson's record, who, funny enough, had boxed for Cuss. Cuss had 3 champions of the world: Jose Torres, Floyd Patterson, and Mike. And I just love the fact that he's still able to train, still able to compete.
It looks phenomenal.
Looks incredible. Looks incredible. I've been watching him on the pads, you know, and somebody sent me a message there the other day. Actually, yesterday, I responded to the message this morning. Good friend of mine in the boxing world. He said, would you not fancy going over to America, Joe, and doing a bit more sparring with Mike now? I said, no. I said I was able to endure the pain then because I was a lot younger and I could recover quicker. I wouldn't be able to endure this pain now because I'm a lot older. I wouldn't recover as quick because Mike still has that power. He might not have the speed that he had when he was 20, 21 to deliver that power punch. But see if he connects with that power punch. This man can break bones with punches, has broke bones with punches. I was on the receiving end of punches from Mike for nearly 2 years, so I know the power of the man. I know the ferocity of the man. That's why when he boxed Roy Jones in his last fight, I was so happy that he pulled his punches against Roy Jones. He hit Roy Jones, who was a 4-time champion of the world, with a body shot, and Roy Jones sunk. He cringed with pain, and Mike seen this. And Mike pulled his punches because he didn't want to hurt the man anymore. And that was so much respect to a former great champion. And I love that because I never believed Mike could pull his punches. And if I hadn't have witnessed that with the Roy Jones fight, I wouldn't have been speaking the way I speak about him getting in with Jake Paul.
Yeah.
Because I know he can pull his punches now.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to pull his punches against Jake Paul. They're wearing 18-ounce gloves. I believe Jake is going to be wearing a head guard. You know, if he was given a choice of head guard, he should wear a full-face motorbike helmet. But it's admirable for Jake Paul to be getting into the ring. And it's probably a dream come true.
Massively.
It's a dream come true for a young man that's a boxing fan that is going to get to share the ring with one of the all-time greats. I witnessed, I sat and shared the top table. It was a tribute to Muhammad Ali, and it was in London, and I shared the top table. I was so privileged to be in this illustrious company. There was men that had fought Ali, and there's men that had boxed on Muhammad Ali's bill. And to me, Muhammad Ali wasn't just the greatest man to enter a boxing ring. He was one of the greatest men to enter the world. And I met him on 4 occasions. And I was so privileged to be in that man's company. But I did a dinner one night, and I was sitting with some great champions, former opponents, former men that had fought on bills with Muhammad Ali. And one of them was John H. Stracey, one of the first British fighter into the Boxing Hall of Fame, World Boxing Hall of Fame, an incredible fighter. And he told a story. He said they went out to America. There was him, Joe Bugner, and John Conte. It was the invasion of the Brits. And Bugner was fighting Muhammad Ali. I can't remember who John fought, and I can't remember who John Conte fought. But John said, I'm in the ring, and I'm shadowboxing in the ring, training this particular day. And he said, next of all, he said, Muhammad Ali was in the ring shadowboxing alongside me. He said it was the greatest feeling in the world to be shadowboxing in the ring. This is a great world champion, John H. Stracey. To say it was an honour and a privilege to be in the same ring shadowboxing with Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
You know? So it would be the same now for Jake Paul to be saying, I'm going to be in the same ring as Mike Tyson.
Bucket list.
I'm going to be in the same ring as Mike Tyson.
Do you know what? I have to be honest. You've turned my thinking around a little bit, and I tell you what, Joe, I've got to be honest. I've always been dead against these sort of things. I've been dead against the YouTube boxing and stuff like that. And I tell you why. The reason being, I never boxed at any sort of level really. I just did bits like everyone else did.
The fact that you got into that ring and fought, admirable, because that walk is the hardest walk you will ever do.
Walk, definitely the longest
hardest walk you'll ever do.
Definitely.
To climb into the ring, in the dressing room, to be thinking about it, then suddenly they tell you to glove up, you're bandaged up, glove up, make your way to the ring.
That's the moment, isn't it? That's the moment.
It's like that moment where you go through the airport,
The fear.
there's no turning back, and it's like...
The fear, and that's why I say there's two spellings of the word fear. The coward spells fear, forget everything and run. The fighter spells fear, face everything and rise. And the fact that you walked that walk, Jim, admirable. Because nothing in life will faze you after that.
No, it doesn't. To be fair, and listen, I'd love to say, I was nervous as anything, but that happened. But for me, I grew up with a lot of professional boxers that were trying to make it, and I watched how hard these guys were trying everything. Guys that had all the talent in the world, that could have been British champions, European champions, no doubt even world champions, but because they just couldn't get the sort of financial backing and stuff like that, Joe, they never got the opportunities. They were trying to be family men, they were trying to work, they were trying to box and stuff like that. And because I've seen how hard these boys have had it, I think I'm always a little bit envious to the YouTube boys that will turn up, sell out a whole arena, get millions of pounds. And I think about the boys that weren't able to achieve their dreams because they just couldn't get that little bit of luck. Do you know what I mean? They couldn't get that little rub of the green.
But I think is that part of being a boxer now, you kind of got to build your brand. And I think the modern day boxer, they build their brand. It then brings in the sponsorships. It stops them working 3 jobs. It allows them to box.
When I was boxing professional, Brett, I had 3 jobs. I worked the door in a pub, I worked the door in a nightclub, and I worked at Delta Airlines in Dublin Airport. And you try and get a couple of hours sleep, a couple of hours in the gym, a couple of hours to eat through the day, eat, sleep, train, a couple of hours at a time, whatever you could. Never really had the chance to fulfill any real potential that I had as a professional because I wasn't having that luxury of a sponsor to where I could give up work for 6 or 8, 10, 12 weeks to get a training camp. So I never really fulfilled. Not saying that I had any potential to be a world champion, but maybe I could have got a European title shot. Who knows? You know, you get lucky and you win a couple of fights, you beat a couple of good fighters and you get into contention. But I never was able to prepare properly. And when I said, I'd done an interview there about John Fury, and I said he would have been the same. I said he worked on the building site all day, went and fought on the night. So we never really fulfilled any potential that we have, or had. And at 58, if they were to make this fight, or if they could have made this fight, we would have had a training camp, 10, 12, 14-week training camp. And anything that's left in the tank would have brought out the best of us, even at 58. You know, I haven't cycled a bike for 20 years on the street. But I know I could go out and cycle a bike tomorrow on the street. I'm not going to win Tour de France. I haven't boxed in 20 years. My last fight was when I was 38, and I won in the 5th round. But I know my way around the boxing ring. Me and John wouldn't be dancing around the ring anymore. You know, we're too old for that. 2 donkeys make a good race. And we would stand in the centre of the ring and we would punch each other to the hardest we could possibly punch. And I believe that my chin is better than his chin. I've been hit by 4 champions of the world, and I was never knocked out. John got hit by 1 champion of the world, and he was knocked out. So I believe my chin is better than his. I'm hoping, if it did happen, that my chin will be better than his. But, like I said, to have the luxury of a sponsor, to have the luxury of a training camp, to fulfill your potential is incredible, you know. When you've got I had a friend of mine, still a very good personal friend of mine, a guy called Christian Brady. Christian was 12-0 as a pro, and unbeaten, and #1 contender for the British title. He couldn't get the British title shot, so his last 2 fights he just took paydays, and he ended up 12-2 as a pro and impacted in. But he had the potential to go far. But he was in the gym this particular day, skipping, training in the gym, training hard. He still trains hard to this day. And he's skipping in the gym with his sweatsuit on. And his trainer at the time said, there's a kid come up from London. And his opponent, whoever the kid was, he was to fight in Birmingham, hasn't made the weight. Christian, will you get in and fight? Christian said, yeah, no problem. What am I getting? They told him what you're getting. He ended up fighting a guy that was a weight above him. But Christian's boxing skills, he arrived at the venue. I was at the show. He arrived at the venue, got in, came straight from the gym and got in and won over 10 rounds on points and beat a good fighter from London. And people say, short notice for a fight. He'd left the gym an hour before, you know, done the weigh-in at the gym, left the gym, came, put his boxing gear on and got in and fought. And that's incredible to think that fighters can do that and have done that, you know.
They've not had it easy, have they, though? They haven't had it easy.
No, but these YouTubers, they experience the sport. You know, they don't experience the hardship, right? They don't experience the hardship of the professional fighters, you know. But the fact that they experience the sport and they love the sport and they bring a whole new audience to sport, I think it's beneficial to the sport because
boxing gyms are busier than ever.
Yes, and the thing is, if you've got when Nigel Benn fought Chris Eubanks, I think it was the biggest TV audience. I think 22, 23 million people on terrestrial television. Coronation Street is the biggest viewing TV program, so it beat Coronation Street. And you've got 2 of Britain's ever all-time greats, Eubanks and Benn, attracting this audience, right, of armchair fans, because the avid boxing fan has Box Nation, has Sky Sports Boxing, which is expensive to buy, right? When boxing was on terrestrial television, the fighters became household names. But when you've got fighters that can get endorsements and sponsorship because they can get onto television, it makes the money that they earn a lot better. Sometimes they earn more in endorsements than they do for their fight purse. You know, logos on their shorts, logos on their dressing gowns, logos on their baseball caps. They get paid a lot of money. So when you've got an audience of so many million. Companies want to put their logos on you.
Of course, yeah.
You know, some of these fighters now walk to the ring and you wouldn't know whether to talk to them or read them. They've got that much writing on that kit, which is great.
Yeah.
You know, because companies want to see their logos on the screen. You know, and when it's just Box Nation or when it's just Sky Sports, you've got hundreds of thousands. When it's terrestrial television, you've got tens of millions. When it's the YouTube, you've got hundreds of millions. Mm-hmm. You know, so I think it's great for the sport. It's also great for the boxers, whether they be white collar, whether they be amateur, whether they be professional, or whether they be YouTubers. It's still, to me, the greatest sport in the world, and I admire them all so much. But the YouTubers are only experiencing it from
the top end, really.
Yes,
aren't they? The top end, yeah.
And it's lovely that they're experiencing that, because I want people to love this sport as much as I love it, you know. And I just think it's great. I really do think it's great. I wish it would have been around when I was boxing, because I had I was able to talk. You know, I'm a good talker. You know, and I had different companies that used to sponsor the IABA, and I used to wish, you know, we were on RTE, which is Irish television, and these companies would have sponsored the Irish finals.
Yeah.
You know, but if they were getting a return for their sponsorship, they would have maybe sponsored club level, you know, clubs at the same time. You know? Yeah. So that's where the boxing needs to get the money from, sponsors. And if these YouTubers start throwing money into amateur boxing clubs, which I think they do, and I think they will, boxing benefits all round. You know, so
yeah, I couldn't argue with that. I have to say, I couldn't argue with that, and I've been quite strong in saying every time we've ever had a discussion with anyone, and we spoke about the Misfits boxing and stuff like that, I'm always kind of against it, because again, the way you put it together is perfect. They're experiencing the sport at the top level, but not the ugly business side of it, I think.
But they're putting the money. They're putting the money into the sport.
Yeah.
So they're putting money into amateur boxing clubs, because these YouTubers are training in amateur boxing clubs. So they're putting money into the amateur boxing clubs. They're getting amateur boxing trainers to help them prepare. They're getting ex-professionals that have passed their sell-by date, had their careers, helping them prepare and train. So they're getting a little earner.
Yeah.
You know, maybe a big earner. I don't know what they're getting as personal trainers. But they're still generating the money. And I just think that's great. I really do think it's great. And boxing is blossoming. I used to say, listen, this is a thing I used to put across, right? And it's probably one of the best arguments for boxing that you could ever hear. It was my way of saying about the Cuban boxing, right? At the time when I was amateur, the Cuban boxers were the best in the world. And the reason the Cuban boxers were the best in the world was because Castro loved the boxing, right? And he put money into the Cuban fighters. They were professionals as amateurs. They could eat, sleep and train. They didn't have to go and do a 9-to-5 job. And that's why they ruled the world. They ruled. Every Olympics, they'd win 8, 9, 10 gold medals because they were professional fighters. Now, if Castro had loved tennis or golf or whatever other sport, they would have ruled the world at that sport. He just happened to love boxing. Okay? Then I used to say, we can't compete at that level with professional amateur status fighters, but being like professional fighters. You can't do it. So suddenly, the Americans and the Germans started to pay their fighters so they could focus on the training. They could go away, don't have to do the 9-to-5 jobs. And they suddenly started to compete with the Cubans, so the Cubans weren't dominating the Olympics. Then the British started to do it. These amateur fighters are now getting lottery-funded money. And suddenly at the Olympics, Britain's bringing in a whole of gold medals.
Yeah.
Then the Irish started to do it. Now, if you look at the amateur status of boxing, they're all nearly professional. And it's the same with all the amateur sports. They're all getting paid because you can't compete. You can't compete against a man or a woman that's able to do it 24/7 when you're only able to do it once or twice a week.
Of course. They always talk, don't they? When you're talking about the boxing, the Cubans, they always talk about the Tefilio Stevenson. He always comes up.
3 times Olympic gold medal. There's only 2 men in the world that has ever won 3 Olympic golds. Laszlo Papp from Hungary, he won 3 Olympic golds, and Teofilio Stevenson won 2 Olympic golds. Now, Laszlo Papp beat Dick McTaggart, the Scotsman, who won the gold. Then he beat him in the next Olympics. McTaggart got the bronze medal. But they're the only 2 men that I'm aware of up until this day that have ever won 3 Olympic gold medals at 3 different Olympics. An incredible achievement. And he admired Castro. He admired his regime because he was offered a lot of money to go professional in America, and he never went.
Yeah.
He never gave in to the lure of the big dollars.
Yeah, he never did it, did he?
No, he never done it because he obviously admired and respected whatever the regime was over there at the time, you know. And all credit to the man. One of the greatest boxers to ever enter a boxing ring.
Yeah,
One of the all-time greats. But the Cubans have produced some incredible champions. A lot of the fighters now are allowed go pro. And they've had some incredible champions, amateur and pro.
Some of them amateur records are just ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But because, as I said, Castro put the funds into boxing because he loved the boxing. And now other countries have followed suit. And that's the only way you can compete at that level.
And get the pro.
Yeah.
Is to be able to focus on it 100%. When you've got to share your time and focus on a job and box, your job should really be the boxing. But when you've got to divide your time, it's hard to fulfill any potential.
Yeah.
It's when you talk about the YouTubers and you talk about that top level money, they're getting trained. They've got a nutritionist. They've got a company sending them food. They haven't got to think, have they? They've just got to turn up and do it.
Well, if you condense what they do, right? I used to train as an amateur. I used to go to the boxing gym Monday, Wednesday, and Sunday morning, and then I do a few runs in between, right? And I got the box right, and I won 7 Irish titles on Monday, Wednesday, Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Right? And me runs in between, and me bit of shadow boxing and whatever else. They are doing that 7 days a week, twice a day, 3 times a day, maybe some days when they go swimming, or they might do a weight session, you know. So they do a run in the morning, and they'd rest, then they do their gym work. Then they might do a weight session, or they might do a swim maybe a couple of times a week. But they're training 7 days a week. So if you put that into, like, they're doing so much in a short period of time. So really, their 3 years boxing is like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, of course it is. Because
because they're cramming it in. So these YouTubers have got so much experience in little time. And then they've also got, like you say, the nutritionists, the trainers, the best of sparring. And I've watched some good YouTube fights.
Hey, we talk about Jake Paul and Mike. Like, Jake Paul, when you look at where he was 3 or 4 years ago, he looks all right. He's never going to compete, but he looks all right.
Listen,
know, like
he's doing good.
Yeah.
He's doing good. But he's a tough kid.
Of course he is, definitely.
He's a tough
yeah.
kid, and I admire him. Yeah. And his brother Logan, I admire the two of them. You know,
clever guys.
He's gone into wrestling there, isn't he? The other one.
Logan's a wrestler. He's a WWE wrestler. You know.
Yeah.
And Jake's having a crack at Mike. Listen, John Fury doesn't want to know. He's shown himself now, in my eyes, as being a coward. Right?
Was he not a friend of yours, Joe?
He was a friend of mine.
Yeah,
John Fury, I've known John a lot of years, right?
Yeah.
I've known John a lot of years. I've known Tyson a lot of years, and know Tommy and John's brother Peter, a gentleman and a good trainer.
For Peter.
An absolute gentleman, Peter, you know. He's trained some great fighters, and he's doing ever so well, right? John has been a little bit of an embarrassment to boxing and to his family name. Boxing doesn't just need great fighters, it needs great ambassadors as well. John's let the sport down with his conduct. But I got him to go to the premiere of a movie called Prize Fighter with Russell Crowe, Ray Winston and Matt Pearce, whose father Dave Pearce was the ex-British heavyweight champion. And it premiered in Cannes. I couldn't attend the premiere for whatever reason, I was working. I can't remember why I couldn't attend. But John was at the premiere and he spoke to illustrious company. Russell Crowe, Ray Winston, Matt Pearce, and he was asked a question in front of this illustrious company. Do you know Joe Egan is another boxer that's in this film? And instead of acknowledging me as his friend. Now he tries to steal Tyson's thunder. He tries to steal his other son's thunder, Tommy. He doesn't give them the credit. And even what he even says about Tyson, excuse the vulgarity, he came out of my ball bag. I'm thinking to myself, that's your son. That's your DNA. That's the heavyweight champion of the world. What a way to describe your own flesh and blood. And I just think that he's very disrespectful. So when he doesn't give them any credit, I didn't expect him to give me any credit, but I didn't expect him to come out with the comment. I know Joe. Joe's a fraud. Joe's a fake hard man. I've never claimed to be a hard man. I've never claimed to be a tough guy. The only fake thing about me is my tan. You know, I pride myself on my manners. I've took beatings off the best fighters in the world. And even Mike Tyson, we sparred this particular day. There was 4 white sparring partners, and he knocked 3 of them out. I was number 4, and I got battered from pillar to post. But he never put me down. At the end of the spar, Mike Tyson said, Joe Egan is the toughest white man on the planet. Far, far from it. I was the toughest white man in the gym that particular day. I took a beating off Lennox Lewis. But if you're going to get battered, you might as well get battered by the best. I got battered by the best of my era. But for John Fury to say that about me, I just thought, very, very disrespectful. Supposed to be my friend. Anyway, when he threw out this challenge to any 58-year-old on the planet, stepped up to the mark. He hasn't stepped up to the mark. And I wanted to sit at a press conference if he'd accepted the fight. And I wanted to look him in the eye, because the eyes are the gateway to the soul. I would have looked him in the eyes and I would have said, you've said this, John, and I'm going to punish you for saying this. And that's what I wanted to do. The money would have been a bonus. The money would have been a big bonus. Because when the Misfits said about the money they were offering, it was an incredible bonus. But he hasn't given me the opportunity to box him. I don't want to roll around on the street with him. No money. I wouldn't be afraid to go into his barn, because I know who's walking out of that barn. I'm walking out of that barn. I'll be better on the street than he would be. And I know that I could take his punches in the boxing ring. So I believe that I'd win in the boxing match as well. And I think he knows that, because if he didn't think that I could win, he'd accept the fight. He's got doubt. I have no doubt whatsoever. In my mind, the fighter's mind is the last thing to go. Do you understand? I believe in my mind I've got the beatings of him. He's doubting himself.
I think, I mean, when he puts out, he only wants... The funny thing is, I will say, I've been around Tyson Fury training camps and stuff like that, and without getting into everything, what I will say, I think there's a lot of negativity around Tyson Fury, and I think it's because of John Fury. I think because the way he conducts himself now, people are fed up with it, and people are walking away from Tyson, who's, you know, listen, he's the WBC heavyweight champion of the world.
Incredible champion.
Fantastic champion, but I think his dad is kind of creating this kind of...
It's an embarrassment.
It's a circus.
It's an embarrassment.
And I think that's happening.
You know,
I do think that's happening.
It's like a circus, you know, but the fact that he's throwing chairs and tables at young adults, disgraceful. But I see Tommy and I see Tyson holding their head in shame some days, you know, when he carries on the way he carries on. But I think they're a little bit... I'm not saying they're afraid of their dad. They obviously respect him enough not to confront him, right? But behind the scenes, they might say, come on, Dad, don't be doing that, you know. In front of the cameras, they haven't told him off. But I'm sure that they want to.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they want to, because who wouldn't want to tell him off the way he conducts himself? But
I think you hit the nail on the head, though. He's stealing the thunder. It's all about John.
It's all about John.
It's not about John. Get at the back.
Like, who is he? You know, in the boxing world, other than the heavyweight champion of the world's dad?
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's the
that's it.
heavyweight champion of the world stage. And Tyson has earned the right to hold centre stage. He's an incredible, undisputed, at one time, champion of the world. And still, in my eyes, he's the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. I don't think anybody's beaten him for the belts. I think the organisations have took the belts off him. But I don't think they've beaten him in the ring to earn them belts. Yeah. Right? No disrespect to the U6 and no disrespect to the Anthony Joshuas. They're incredible fighters. But on his day, Tyson Fury was a force to be reckoned with. Anthony Joshua, an incredible champion. Usyk, an incredible champion. But I think they've got to beat the man to earn the right to claim themselves that champion. And they haven't beaten Tyson Fury yet. Not saying that they can, not saying that they will. But I think he has the right to claim the undisputed title.
Yeah.
The linear title or whatever, the ring belt champion, whatever they call it. There's so many now, I don't know.
Yeah.
But what he's overcome with his mental health is incredible, because I've suffered mental health illness and I had depression for 2 years. And see, when it hits you, it's like a sucker punch from hell. I don't drink or smoke or take drugs, and I believed that my fortune was going to be made with boxing, and everything I did was to help my boxing career. When my boxing career was finished because of a car crash in the early 90s, I went into a depression. And people used to say to me about depression, and you can't see it really, it's not visible, it just hits you inside your mind. And when people used to say to me about being depressed, they say, behave yourself, come on, get your act together, behave yourself. Until it actually hits you. And when it hits you, it's like, I can't put into words how you actually feel. And for 2 years, I piled on weight. I went from 15 stone after my last professional fight in the early 90s. I was involved in a bad car crash and my career was finished. And I piled the weight on. I was obese. And I was sitting in my home. I was still getting my wages off my manager, Mr. Eastwood. I was still living in Mr. Eastwood's accommodation. But I wasn't doing anything other than eating and sleeping. I wasn't training. I wasn't walking. I used to just let my dog out. I had a beautiful boxer bitch called Sheba. She had 24 puppies, 13 are first, and 9 survived, and 11 are second, and 7 survived. All pedigree pups. But this particular day, after 2 years of suffering depression that I didn't know what had hit me, my dog was whinging in the hallway. Whinging and crying in the hallway. And I'm lying in my bed feeling sorry for myself, obese like a beached whale. And I'm shouting to my dog, shut up, Sheba, shut up. After 2 hours of her whinging, I stood up and I walked out into the hallway, and she'd pooed in the hallway. And I felt ashamed to think that I didn't get out of bed to open the back door to let my dog go out to the toilet. And I felt ashamed to think that my dog was in pain for 2 hours, whinging and crying, to get out to go to the toilet. And there was the kickstart that I needed to realise I've got to do something. I've got to get help. So the next day I went down to the boxing gym. I went in to see Mr. Eastwood. I walked into the gym. I waddled into the gym. And you could hear the gasps. 2 years since the fighters had seen me. 2 years since Mr. Eastwood had seen me. And you could hear the gasps. I was like, where have you been? What have you done to yourself? How have you turned out to be this obese? And I went over to Mr. Eastwood and I said, Mr. Eastwood, I need help. I'm suffering. I don't know what's wrong. And I need help. Anyway, he sent me for counselling, and the counsellors helped me. He sent me to a health farm as well. He sent me to Raspberry Hill up in Derry. I did a few months up there, and they helped me to get my act together again, to focus on a bit of training other than training for boxing. But the counsellors helped me, and I realised that I'd gone into a depression. I didn't know what was happening to me at the time because my boxing career was over and everything I'd ever done was boxing. And suddenly now I've got to learn that there's more to life than boxing, and I did. I learned with the counsellors, I learned being up in the health farm, and had the safety net and my security. I never thought I was going to end my day's work in security. I thought that was just a means to an end. I was going to make my fortune with boxing. But I didn't make my fortune with boxing, but I always had the safety net and security. But the counselling helped me cope and helped me get my act together and got my life in order. And then I talk to people today that say about depression and mental health, and I say, get help. Don't let it consume you like it did me. I'm not saying I'm anything special, far, far, far from it. But if it can hit me, who's full of the joys of life, Jovial Joe, it can hit anybody. And the stigma that was attached to it is suddenly now being changed because of Tyson's Fury's admittance that he has suffered. And that the heavyweight champion of the world can stand on a stage and say what he's had to endure with his mental health issues. Why can't mere mortals like me and other people do the same? So he has took that stigma away, and I give him all the credit in the world. Admirable, the fact that he's had the confidence and the courage to say that as the heavyweight champion of the world. You know, and he has done so much for the mental health sufferers, because the world is full of people that suffer in silence, and he will now help them open up. One of my agents is a guy called Dave Mariner, an incredible man, and he has a charity called Unmasked Mental Health, and it's for people that still want anonymity but need to get help. Some of them soldiers, some of them policemen, policewomen, tough people in their everyday lives, tough people in their everyday jobs that can't be showing weakness with suffering with mental health. So what they do is they speak on the phone, still keep their identity, like I said, they have their anonymity, but they get help. And there was a particular area of the UK that was a hotspot for suicides. So Dave and his charity have put this hub up there for people. Before you jump, or before you take your life, speak to somebody on this hotline. And since they've put that hub there, there's been no suicides.
That's fantastic.
So it's good to talk.
That's fantastic.
You know, and Tyson Fury has opened the floodgates for people to talk. And he has probably saved so many lives.
Big time.
Yeah, major. Yeah. And I love that in the man. You know, I admire him, I respect him. He's my friend. Don't particularly have any fondness for his dad. Maybe
you
when
get that quiet.
Yeah, maybe if the fight happens, when the fight's over, we can embrace. You know, I'm sure we will. But at this moment in time, I've still got to keep. I'm going to keep on him. I'm hoping
keep
that
chipping away.
Keep chipping away. You know, but Tyson is something very special as a man and as a champion of the world.
We touch on mental health a lot on this podcast because we both suffered, as I think most people have, and we're the same. You know, talking is so important.
People are afraid to talk.
Big time. Yeah.
Like I said about Dave Mariner's Unmasked Mental Health, people are afraid to talk. But Tyson Fury now has made people realise if he can say it, so can I.
Yeah.
You know, and I love that. I love that because I know I suffered in silence for 2 years. And it, all the comfort that I had was in food. I do love my food. People ask me what my favourite meal is. I always say seconds. I do love my food. But when I train, I can eat what I want.
Yeah.
Do you understand? And I do have a hearty appetite. But when I'm not training, that hearty appetite doesn't go away. And I just went from 15 stone as a professional athlete. I think I went up to nearly 30 stone.
Jesus Christ.
Doubled my weight in nearly just another 2 years, to where I was up to, I think my waist was 58-inch waist.
Wow.
You know, when I was fit, I had a 34-inch waist. You know, at this moment in time, I think I'm 38-inch waist. So I'm not 100% fit, you know, but it's better having a 38-inch waist than a 58-inch waist. Please believe me, you know, it's easier to walk around.
Yeah. So
I can eat what I want because I'm doing my bit of training. But at that time, I didn't want to train. I didn't want to do anything. My mental health suffered. I didn't know what it was.
Cycle, though, isn't it? You can't break it. No. You know, something needs to break it, but you can't work out what it is.
And it wasn't really spoke about much, was it?
No.
So you don't know, you know. You don't know what it is.
Even when it was said to me, I was like, behave yourself. People say, I'm suffering, Joe. Shut up. Because you can't see. You can't see.
Yeah.
But see, a lot of people now are suffering in silence because of the bullies. That's the thing that's affecting a lot of people now as well. I suffered bullying. I've had a belly full of bullying from a child to an adult. And I don't like bullies. No one likes a bully. And there's people now, they give you that excuse that they're taking their lives because of peer pressure of exams and everything else. No, it's because of bullying. Now, when I got bullied, it was physical. You know, you get an arm broke, a jaw broke, a nose broke, you get a bad beating. I've had plenty of them, so I know. But they could give you a time scale when the physical beatings would heal, when the bruising or the breaks would heal. But now it's mental bullying, you know, over computers and mobile phones. Yeah, and there's no time scale for the mind to heal. The mind is getting damaged by internet bullying, mobile phone bullying, and it's horrible. You see children and adults suffering at the computers of bullies and the mobile phones of bullies, and it's horrible to see.
It's become a strange kind of thing, because even with the podcast, we'll put things up, and you'll have someone that will put a comment on. We had a guest that came on that you know, is quite well known for all of her drug taking and so on, but she's trying to tackle that. And she put a post on saying, look, I'm really proud of this podcast because I was myself, I revealed it. Some of the comments on there
Disgusting.
are disgusting,
Yeah.
are horrendous. And I'm like,
The bullies that are putting them comments on there.
but where did we become these people that you see this person is broken, they're trying to fix their life?
Them bullies have always been there.
Yeah.
Through time, them bullies have always been there. But years ago, they'd bully you with a stone by hitting you with a stone, or they'd hit you with a stick. And that old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. But now, them names are hurting people because they've got the internet. Mm-hmm. They've got the internet to be able to not throw a stone at you or not hit you with a stick, but they're calling you them names over the internet. So them sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Them names are hurting people now. Mm-hmm. And that's what I say.
It's relentless.
Yes, these YouTubers that are getting in boxing, if you had to ask them their stories, maybe some of them are getting bullied over the internet. And it's giving them confidence and character and backbone to stand up, whereas they might be timid on their keyboard and not want to answer the bullies back. But they're getting into the boxing ring, and it's giving them the confidence and the courage to say to the bully boy or bully girl, because women do it as well, on the internet, and say, listen, buzz off. You're not going to break me. Do you understand? Because I can climb into the boxing ring, and I've got the confidence and the courage to climb into the boxing ring. So you're not going to break me over the internet. And that's what I believe that the boxing done for me. Yeah. It gave me the confidence and the character and the backbone to stand up to the bullies. And I think if you ask any fighter, 9 times out of 10, their stories are similar. Bullying.
Yeah.
And I think if you were to ask the YouTubers, they're probably getting a lot of bullying as well. You know, and that's why they're doing
anyone who puts himself out there, you know, in the limelight, there's an element, you know, that you'll never please everyone.
It's just a modern way of bullying. It's just a modern way of bullying. But bullies have been there from the beginning of time. From the beginning of time. Yeah. You know, and sadly, they'll be there till the end of time. But hopefully, if one person can make a difference that can change people's lives, you know, then you've done something. Muhammad Ali used to say, I wish people loved each other as much as they loved him.
Yeah.
You know, and he made a difference. He was an individual that made a big difference. Nelson Mandela was a man that made a big difference, you know. Different people through time have made a big difference to the human race. But the human race isn't a particular nice race. You know, if you look at us as people, we're very cruel to each other. Animals wouldn't do to each other what we do to each other. If you look at the way we kill, you know, years ago we'd kill with clubs. Then it became bows and arrows and knives. Then it became muskets. Then it became machine guns. Then it became tanks. Then it became aeroplanes with special whatever they've got in these aeroplanes. Then it's become atomic. Now it's become nuclear. So we've advanced as a race on how we kill, how quick we kill, how many we can kill. And I just think to myself, whatever God's up there, and I pray all the time, I believe in the power of prayer. You can call him Allah, you can call him Buddha, call him God. As long as you respect him in the right way and respect others' beliefs. Whatever God is looking down on us, must be quite ashamed of thinking to himself, what have I created?
This is what you've done.
This is what you've done, you know. Because as a human, yes, there's been some amazing things happen in life, you know, the creation of the wheel, the creation of the jet. But the wheel just gets the weapon quicker to the front lines. The jet just gets the rockets quicker to the front lines. And I'm thinking to myself, like, everything seems to be geared towards warfare. Gandhi used to want to keep peace. And see me, I want to keep peace. I think look at the way Northern Ireland's gone, my own country. We've had war for hundreds of years, but now there's peace in Northern Ireland, and it's wonderful. The country's blossoming, Ireland as a country. The North in particular, they've got the Titanic museums and the tourists are flocking. You know, my brother lives up in Northern Ireland, and I'm so happy that there's peace at long last, because there's been so many people, both sides, Protestant and Catholic, died in the Troubles, and British soldiers and British politicians, and it's sad, really. But I'm an advocate for peace, you know. I'm an advocate for peace, and I just think that as a human race, we seem to be geared towards warfare.
It would be. I'd love to know. We never know. I'd love to know how many times the human race has wiped itself out and gone again.
Yeah.
You know, it must have happened. You know, you see things like the pyramids and that, and you look into conspiracy theories where they're now saying about this place in Turkey that reckons 12, 13,000 years old, and they reckon it. You know, again,
the ruins that they've found.
Yeah. And
we
it's
probably have. We probably have. The history books are written by people that they want us to know what they want us to know. You know, and
because it seems like we sort of like
we have done a lot of damage to ourselves,
Exactly.
and we are still doing a lot of damage to ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many wars going on at the moment, and they're calling it whatever title they want to call it. In one case, in Bosnia, what was happening in Bosnia, they called it ethnic cleansing. How can you call, you know, slaughter ethnic cleansing? They slaughtered the Muslims in Bosnia. For what? Because of their beliefs. And I watched that on the telly. I've got Bosnian friends. I've been out to Bosnia. I went to this war memorial. I said I wasn't going to cry at this interview. I went to this war memorial, and I met an old man. I was with my friend Mickey Slakovic, whose uncle was the number 2 bodybuilder in the world, behind Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger was a family friend, and his uncle, who was a big star in Bosnia, tried to stop the slaughter, and it was slaughter. And he was took out into the square and executed in the square in front of his family. And they said, as they were slaughtering him, just because you're a celebrity, you're not getting preferential treatment. And they slaughtered him in the square, executed him and his son. Well, Mickey Salakovic has opened 2 gyms in honour of his uncle. They've called them Solak's Gym. One of my friends, Sandy Patel, he kitted out to both the gyms with the weights. The school that was used as a prison, my friend Kamal Singh, he kitted out the school now as 16 computers for the school. Me and Cass Pennant and my friend who's dead now, God rest him, Barrington Patterson, we did fundraisers, and we helped take the bars out of the windows from when it was a prison to put it back into being a school. So I've done so much for the Bosnian people. They're an incredible race of people. They have forgiven so much for what has happened to them. And when I went to this war memorial, I met an old man at the war memorial, and was talking to him. Mickey Sarakovic interpreted what he said, and his 6 sons and his brother executed on the same day. And he said to me, why? He said, we were farmers, we weren't soldiers. And I thought, how cruel can you be to execute a man's 6 sons and his brother on the same day? And how could this man even want to live after that? We watched that film, Saving Private Ryan. It's supposed to be based on a true story, that this Ryan family had already lost 2 sons in the war, and they were trying to save number 3. And it was a worldwide success film. And that's 3 sons in the one family. And then you meet a man whose 6 sons were executed on the same day. They weren't even soldiers. So yeah, we are a cruel race of people. And sometimes I feel ashamed to think that what we do to each other, you know, any disputes that you have, get into the boxing ring and take them out on each other in the boxing ring.
Yeah.
Like I've got my dispute with John Fury over what he said. I'll get into the boxing ring and I'll take it out on him if he has the courage to get in. But we seem to want to kill each other.
I suppose war's been going on forever, but we're imploding.
Since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
Since the beginning of time. And the people that fund the wars, they seem to be making the money. You know, because if you look at when Hitler was crossing Europe, the two countries that he stopped at, Switzerland and Monaco, he didn't invade either country. And they hadn't got armies. But you know what they had? They had the banks that were funding both sides. And them countries weren't invaded by Hitler because they were the monetary hubs of whoever was funding Hitler and whoever was funding Churchill. But it seems to be happening again today. That's the old saying, history repeats itself. It just keeps doing over again. And I'd love to think that one day it would stop and Gandhi would have his impression on the future and say, listen, it's got to talk. Let's just sit down and talk. Because that's what that man wanted to do. He wanted to keep the peace. Nelson Mandela wanted to keep the peace. Two great statesmen of the world. But
one of the stories we spoke about Ali and about peace and stuff like that.
Oh,
One of the stories I remember really, really well. Tim Witherspoon, who just beat Frank Bruno, you probably know this story.
Yeah.
And the fans had found out where Tim's changing room was, and they had the big wheelie bins, and they were trying to smash through the door to get to Tim Witherspoon to set about him because they just stopped, obviously, England's hero in Bruno. And Muhammad Ali was in the dressing room at the time. And Muhammad Ali said to Tim Witherspoon, open the door and let me out. Tim's like, you're mad, you're crazy. Look what we're going to do to you. The Brits are going to set about. He said, let me out.
I didn't know this.
Honestly, Joe, this is fact. And when...
Because Tim had been a Muhammad Ali sparring partner.
Yes, yeah. So
I knew that.
So Tim, he said to Tim, open the door, let me out. Tim's told me this story thousands of times, and I've heard it from someone else. So they open the door and they let Ali out, and Ali goes out, and all these guys stop and, oh my God, Muhammad Ali. And he said, you should be ashamed of yourself. He said, what are you doing? He said, well, you want to attack this man because he beat your man. He said, your man, was he had just as much chance as he did to be the WBA heavyweight champion of the world. He went, and now you're going to come and set about this man. He said, you should be ashamed of yourself. He said, beautiful country, what a beautiful event. Both men have given their heart. He said, you should be ashamed. And he said, one by one, they turned around and they started walking away till one fella was left. And he said, like, what are you going to do? And the guy kind of he was just completely in awe and just walked away. And a whole riot was going to kick off.
Yeah.
If they would have got in, honestly, a whole riot was going to go in there. And Ali's gone out and stopped it. One man's gone out the front and he's stopped all these lads with the bins and the barriers and everything else. He's calmed everything down, you know. So every now and then, this is what was leading me to say, I think every now and then we get these people that are patrons for peace, but then we lose their way again. You know, people like Gandhi, people like Mandela, people like Ali, they set the stones for us or the seeds for us, but then we get it
focus.
Wrong. Yeah, we lose focus. We get it wrong again.
But we live sadly in a world of hate. You look at racism. Racism is ripe, and it's tragic. I did a show with Evander Holyfield, the real deal, one of the greatest ever to enter a ring. I did a show with him in Spain. We were in Marbella doing a show in Spain, and we're on the top stage. And one of the questions, an incredible question, that champions get asked all the time. What did it feel like when you won the world title? And I've heard different champions give their answer of what it felt like. The adoration of the fans, the feeling of success inside. Different great answers. I wasn't expecting this answer from Evander Holyfield. Now, he's from an area in Georgia. I've been to Georgia, and it's a state that's ripe with racism. You know, the slave trade was ripe there. And he said he used to go to this club when he was a young man. And as an Olympian, an Olympic bronze medalist, he lost to Kevin Barry, the New Zealander, in the semi-finals of the Olympics. He threw the punch as the referee said break, and the punch landed as the referee said break, and Evander got disqualified, so he couldn't fight in the final. He knocked out Kevin Barry from New Zealand. Kevin Barry couldn't fight in the final, and I think the Yugoslavian fighter won the gold on a walkover. So Evander was a bronze medalist, and he used to go to this club as an Olympian, and he was never allowed into this club. He said, because of his colour. So I'm on the stage, the audience is sort of gasping. He's an American boxing champion, an Olympic medalist, and he wasn't allowed into this club. And he would queue, get to the front of the queue, and he would get turned away because of his colour. But he said after he won the world title, he said, I didn't even have to queue. And I'm sitting on the stage thinking, that's what it meant to him, that he could go into this club in an area where he lived after winning the world title. And that's modern day. You know, that's not that long ago. A man of his colour wasn't allowed into the club. You read these stories about Muhammad Ali having to go in back doors of restaurants as champion of the world. Now, I've had run-ins with racists. I've had a lot of hassle with racists over my time. People make the mistake thinking that racists just don't like black people or Asian people. They hate the Irish. We don't do racism in Ireland. We fight each other. The Irish fight each other. I've had punch-ups with my two brothers, but that's sibling rivalry. Yeah. But we don't do combat with a man because of his colour. But when I got shot on the 26th of July 1998. I was shot twice by the National Front, the Combat 18, the BNP, whatever you want to title you want to give them, but they're racists. And when you look at the great men and great women that died fighting in the world wars against fascism and racism, them great men and women would roll over in their graves now if they were to see how the racists are still operating in this great place, this great country. Do you understand? And it's tragic to see, you know, and that's the great thing about boxing. Boxing doesn't promote racism. You know, you won't, yeah, they might say the Great White Hope and things like that. That's a boxing promoter might say that. But you won't see a boxing match build as white man versus black man, white man versus brown man, you know, brown man versus black man. You won't see that build as a fight. There's no promoter would want to sell a fight like that. Because in boxing, and I love the fact that I can be an ambassador for the sport, you know, in boxing they don't breed racism. And that's why I'm so proud of the sport, you know. And
even in the gyms, you know, you've got a policeman training with a robber. You've got a white man, a black man,
the camaraderie in the gym.
It's just
the camaraderie, the friendship.
Gym,
the camaraderie and friendship. It's a safe haven as well against the bullies. I won my way to an Irish final this particular year, and I fought a guy called Cathal Ryan. He was head doorman in the nightclub where I worked. We battered each other in the final, and then went to work on the door that night. Both busted up, bruised and battered. People coming to the club going, must have been a bad fight. We were after boxing each other. He was best man at his wedding, and he was one of my best friends. But it's just a sport. It's nothing personal. You know, when the bell goes, you just exchange blows. Yeah. And that's that. When it's over, you embrace. And people that don't understand the sport can't understand how you can batter each other and then embrace each other.
Makes you closer.
Respect is there.
Yeah.
Respect's
Greatest sport in the world. Yeah. And I was very privileged to share the ring with some of the greatest fighters of my era. And I've been very lucky and fortunate to meet fighters from other eras. Greatest. You know, I met Muhammad Ali 4 times. God rest him. And to be in that man's company, to be in that man's presence was incredible. Yeah. I was in his home in Michigan. Al Capone used to own his house. I went through the gates, GO80, greatest of all time. And I met him in his house. I met him in Louisville. I met him in Washington, D.C. And I met him in New York. But to be in his presence was just incredible. Yeah. I used to do an Ali Shuffle as a tribute to him.
We're going to make you give it a go in a minute as well.
Oh, no. I remember one year, I won my way to the Irish finals. And I'd had 3 hard fights to get to the final. And I was matched with a fighter called Liam Mervyn from Belfast. Me and Liam had rivalry. From the north of Ireland to the south of Ireland, he was a power puncher. He was knocking guys out, incredible fighter. And there was talk that he was going to test my chin, because my chin had been hit by some great fighters. And I'd stood up to some great punches. But Liam Mervyn was going to really test my chin. So he won his way to the final, and I won my way to the final. Liam got injured in sparring. I don't know what injury he got. I don't know whether he got cut or he went over on his ankle. He done something, And unfortunately, he couldn't fight in the final. So I've won my way to the final after having 3 hard fights. So now I'm being awarded the Irish title on a walkover in the final. But for people that didn't know, I had 3 hard fights to get to the final. They just see you winning on a walkover. So I've got into the ring. I'm in my suit because I'm there as a guest on the night. I'm not going to box. So there's no point in being in a tracksuit or in boxing gear. So I'm in my suit. So they said, Joe, you can't climb into the boxing ring with your shoes on because of the canvas. So you have to take your shoes off. So I said, okay. So I've climbed into the boxing ring in my suit. And the audience in the National Stadium, 7,500, ramped to capacity, are screaming, do the alley shuffle, do the alley shuffle, right? So I done the alley shuffle in my socks and I slip and I fall over. And I'm lying on the canvas in my suit, holding my head in shame, in front of a packed audience, roaring laughter. I haven't even been punched and I'm on the deck. I slipped in my socks. I've been reminded of that by boxing fans so many times. There's another story where I've been reminded as well. It's a funny story. When I used to work the doors, I'd finished working the doors on Leeson Street at 4 in the morning. Get home about 5. Get a couple of hours sleep. Wake up 7:30, 8 o'clock. And get ready to go to the boxing gym in the North Boxing Club for 9 o'clock. So after work, I would get a bit of breakfast up on Leeson Street, and that would keep me going till after training. You know, it was like breakfast bap or whatever they had.
Yeah.
So this particular morning, I didn't get the breakfast bap. So I've got home, empty stomach, gone to bed for a couple of 3 hours. Woke up. My dad was home at that time, so my mum was cooking breakfast, and I could smell the breakfast being cooked, and my stomach was rumbling with hunger because I hadn't eaten all through the night since 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock the night before. This is like 8:30, 9 in the morning, so I was gone 12 hours. So the smell of the breakfast was really hitting me hard. So I said to Mum, I said, please, Mum, give us a sandwich. She said, no, son, you're going to the boxing gym. I said, Mum, I'm starving. Please give me something. Put an egg on a piece of bread. So she's put a fried egg on the piece of bread, and I folded over the sandwich. My dad's coming down the stairs. In every boy's eyes, his dad's the toughest man on the planet. In my eyes, my dad was the toughest man on the planet. So I know I'm going to be in trouble here if he sees me eating this piece of bread, egg sandwich. So I've put it into my mouth and I swallowed it. I didn't even chew it. Down the hatch. True as God. True as I'm sitting here. Down the hatch. So my dad's walked into the kitchen. What are you eating? Nothing, Dad. I'm not eating anything. I was 16 at the time. I left school like when I was 14. I left school with 2 swimming certificates. And I was on the doors of nightclubs at 15. I was big for my age. So I'm 16 now at this stage. I've swallowed this egg sandwich without chewing it. So we've got to the North Boxing Gym. There's a lad up from the country. My trainer, Tony Mann, said, going to do a bit of sparring this morning, Joe. I said, no sparring on a Sunday morning, Tony. We spar on a Monday and Wednesday. Sunday's just a bit of pad work, bit of bag work. He said, no, Joe, you don't get to spar very often. He said, take full advantage of this guy. Now, I only had the sandwich half an hour before.
That's coming up.
Yeah, you know what's happening, right? So, next of all, Tony said, okay, we just do body sparring. Probably the worst. I'd have been better off getting hit in the head. Anyway, this lad from the country has hit me a punch in the stomach. The egg came straight up. True as God. Landed on the ring apron. The whole white of the egg. Not chewed. He's looking, the lad in the ring. My trainer's looking. There's 3 or 4 other lads in the gym come over there looking. They still to this day remind me, they said the yellow wasn't even broke. Right? The yellow was broke. But my trainer went, how did you get that down? I said, Tony, don't ask. I swallowed it this morning without chewing it. But when it came up and landed on the ring apron, it was the funniest thing. So I've been reminded of a few things that have happened in my life over time. But the boxer's sense of humour, you know, and I believe in laughter. Even though now used to laughing, I believe in laughter. There's thousands of languages in the world. We all speak different languages, and sometimes we haven't got a clue what each of us are saying, but we all laugh in the same language. And laughter's such a very important thing. You know, you cry alone. You laugh, the world laughs with you. You know, and I know enough about crying. I've cried enough tears. I could flood the place with the tears I've cried in my lifetime. And like I said earlier, it's not a pity trip. I've had a good life. I've had a hard life. But I explain to people, I say, listen, you've got to experience hard times to appreciate good times.
Yeah.
And I've had my belly full of hard times. So any good times that I have, I appreciate. And here's my analogy of life, right? If you look at a life support machine, and I've been on a life support machine, I was 5 days on a life support machine in North Carolina, 3 days in a coma, you know, and it was the first place ever in the world that had a life support, not a life support machine, but they ever had ICU, intensive care unit. The first place ever in the world was in North Carolina. So I was in the right place to be in intensive care. It was just an incident that happened. I was 5 days in intensive care, 3 days in a coma. I won't go into it. But the thing is, if you look at a life support machine, I've had a few run-ins with the Grim Reaper in my life. You know, I've fought the Grim Reaper off many times. He will eventually get us. You know, he gets us all. And he'll eventually get me. But I'm going to fight on for as long as I possibly can and keep him at bay for as long as I possibly can. But he will eventually get us. You know, but I believe there's a better place here. There's a better place after here. Do you understand? I'm not in any hurry to get there, but I believe there is a better place after here. You know, but if you look at a life support machine, when the heart beats, it goes up, and when it beats, it goes down, and it beats, it goes up, and it goes down. And when you die, you flat lines. And I believe in peaks and troughs, and that's life, ups and downs of life. You know, you have the lows, and then you have the highs. I'm not talking drugs. I'm not condoning drugs. I'd never took drugs. But I think you got to experience the lows to appreciate the highs, and that's in life, not drugs. Yeah. Because as I said, when it flat lines, you're dead. And that's, like I said, life. We all experience them, and I've experienced my belly full of them. And before my life ends, I'll experience hard times again, you know, without a shadow of a doubt. You know, every day is a gift from God. That's why it's called the present. Tomorrow's not promised to anybody. This day is the present, and that's the gift from God. And enjoy each day, because one day it will be our last day. I hope my last day is a long way away. I know your last days is a long way away, but one day that day will come, you know. So enjoy life for what we have, what we can give, and how we can help others, you know, because that's what life's all about. It's nice to be able to. I've had so many people help me in my life. I've helped people in their lives, and it's nice to be able to do that. And when you see champions of the world who are in the privileged position, superstars of sport in the privileged position, you know, people with money in a privileged position helping others, it's admirable, you know, and I love that, you know, because
it instills a bit of hope, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. We hope. We do hope that one day this world will be a better place. But when you look at a rotten apple in a box, you leave that rotten apple in the box, it's going to rot the rest of the apples. So you've got to take that rotten apple out of the box for the rest of the apples to have a chance. And that's the way society is. We have a rot in society. You know, we've got to try and take that rot out to give the rest of society a chance. But we do live in hope, because when you see the likes of what we spoke about, Nelson Mandela's and the Muhammad Ali's and people like that, you know, and there's other statesmen and women out there at the moment. To me, I look at women now as not just as a mother, and not just as a person that cooks and things like that, you know, that because I used to see it with my own mother as she was the rock of the house anyway, but she used to mind us also because my dad was away, and she was such a strong person, you know. So I used to see my mum doing so much, right, because she was in the home, and I used to think, well, that was a woman's place in the home, because that's the way I used to look at my own mother. But now you look at what women are achieving outside of the home. It's incredible, you know, and the suffragettes did what they did so that women can go and do what they want to do. And in the 2012 Olympics, the most incredible part to me of the 2012 Olympics was Nicola Adams winning the first ever female gold in boxing. Her smile lit up that stadium. I know I'm talking about boxing because that's the sport I love. But if you look at women, how they've excelled in so many walks of life.
It's role models,
Flying aeroplanes. surgeons. So many admirable things that women are doing now outside of the home. Because I was brought up that a woman's place was in the home, because my mum's place was looking after our 7 children in the home. So that was my sort of outlook. But how I've changed my opinion now when you see these women doing so many amazing things, flying rockets.
Yeah.
Recently there's been the pilot of the rocket that went into space, was the captain was a female. NASA sent up, women, and there's so many wonderful things that they're doing, but they're excelling in boxing.
Yeah.
You look at the Nicola Adams, like I said, but Jane Couch, Britain's
First
great
one.
Jane Couch.
First
She
one.
set
Yeah.
precedent. She
Yeah.
fought the British Boxing Board of Control,
Yeah.
and she won.
Yeah.
And she set precedent. So the Layla Ali's and the Jackie Fraser Hydes, the champions' daughters, Joe Fraser's daughter and Muhammad Ali's daughter, they could excel. The Katie Taylors. How amazing is she? I'm not saying it because she's Irish and I'm Irish. There's been some amazing
It
champions.
was only a couple of years ago when they had the first headliner, like the first female headliner fights.
I never
That
thought
was
we'd
selling
see
out.
that.
Like,
And
that was. Yeah,
I have to
good
say,
night.
one of my favourite fights, believe it or not, and it's a big statement, it was one of my favourite fights. My favourite is always going to be Hagler Hearns, the 3-round war. That's my fight. But the second one was Katie Taylor versus Serrano.
Incredible.
What
Big fight.
They had two
Big
fights,
fight.
didn't they?
Yeah,
They had two fights.
I think it was the rematch where Katie is almost out on her feet, and then somehow. But that for me, anyone that's kind of up against women's boxing, you sit down and watch that, and you tell me afterwards.
Let me tell you a
they've got
story
place.
now. I'll tell you a story now, right? I know Katie since she's a little girl. I used to train with her dad, Peter Taylor, an incredible light heavyweight. And I knew Katie from when she was like probably 2 or 3. I remember as a little girl looking through the ropes as me and her dad used to spar. But I went to a boxing show. I'm not ashamed to say this. I'm not ashamed to say this in any shape or form. I've 4 sisters and we all have mothers, right? And in the beginning I was against women boxing, right? I was against it because I thought a woman has a womb that carries a baby and body punches can maybe damage that womb. My brother's wife was in a car crash and she had an accident and she was told there was a possibility that she might not be able to have children, and if she does have children, the chances are there could be problems. Blessings to God, she's 2 children, right? She's Nathan and Rhiannon. But there was problems when Nathan was born. He had problems with his heart. He had to have open heart surgery, 8 hours of open heart surgery. So there had been damage done from the twisting of her body in the car crash. Yeah. Blessings to God, she survived, and blessings to God, she's been able to give birth to 2 beautiful children. Anyway, when I was asked about female boxing, I said, I don't think a woman should be getting punched to the stomach because it could do internal damage, maybe to the womb in particular. And that's where they're going to carry life in the womb for future generations to come, And I was a little bit against it. So I've gone to this boxing show, me and my 2 pals, Warren Wigan and Steve Pettit. We've gone to the Villa Leisure Centre to watch a night of boxing. There was Mark Ramsey against Spencer McCracken, which was bitter rivalry, 2 different parts of Birmingham fighting each other. There was Rob Norton defending his World Cruiserweight title, and there was Bobby Vanzi defending his European title. So there was 3 supposed great fights. They didn't live up to expectations. So now I said to Warren and I said to Steve, I said, to add insult to injury, I said, there's 2 women boxing. Jane Couch against a Dutch fighter. So we're walking down from our seats. I'm leaving. I'm going. I'm not going to watch this. They've gone to the centre of the ring. They've touched gloves. They've gone to the corners. The bell's gone. They've stood in the centre of the ring and they're now punching the living daylights out of each other as I'm walking past the ring. So I sort of looked. I went to Steve and Warren. This doesn't look half bad. And I've sat down. I don't know whose seats I took. People that obviously left. And I sat and I watched 10 rounds of warfare.
Yeah.
Incredible. Of the highest standard and the courage and bravery of any fighter.
Yeah.
After the fight, I walked over. Jane Couch knew me. I couldn't believe, but she's a massive Mike Tyson fan. And Mike Tyson is a massive fan of Jane Couch. And I walked over and I said, I didn't agree with women boxing. But now, after watching you fight, I am now a fan. of women boxing. And from then, I've watched so many women box.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was out in America when Layla Ali fought Erin Toha, the Irish girl. Another 3-round war. I met Erin. I met Layla. I spoke to Erin on the day of the fight with her trainer. Erin had a history of cage fighting. Yeah. Hard, tough woman. And Layla at the time was suffering with the latter stages of her father's illness. It was hitting her hard. So she was emotionally hurting. Our training camp wouldn't have been the best because of what was happening with her daddy. God rest him. So when I spoke to Erin's trainer and Erin, they said, she's there for the taking because of what she's had to endure with this training camp. And Erin's trainer said, my girl can fight. And if anybody's going to topple Layla Ali, my girl will topple her. And if any time is right to topple Layla, this is the time. So I went, okay, because it's all about timing. It's like when Barry McGuigan fought Pedrosa. Pedrosa was on the decline. Yeah. Barry McGuigan was on the up. And it's all about timing. You know, it's like when Ricky Hatton fought Costa Zoy. Costa Zoy was past his best. Ricky was on the up.
That was the right time.
It's all about timing. Yeah. You know, and this was the right timing for Erin. She believed, her trainer believed. And it was an incredible fight while it lasted. But Layla's class shone through. Erin's courage was second to none. And it was incredible. The fight was unbelievable for the 3 rounds. It was up there with the Hagler and Hearns for 3 rounds. Yeah. If you ever get the chance to watch it, Erin Toha against Layla. Watch it. Erin Irish Toha. I'm not saying it because she was an Irish girl. Yeah. But it was incredible. But Layla's class, her DNA was just exceptional. But I have become such a big fan of women boxing. And I will stand and argue with people, whereas I used to be against it. I would say, no, let them fight.
Yeah, I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's great. Phenomenal. But listen, women now, like I said, the things that they're doing, the surgeons that they've become, the dentists that they've become, the judges, you know, the barristers, the pilots, the rocket astronauts, women are they're incredible.
I mean, if I'm correct, and I'm quite sure I'm right, but Mike Tyson insisted that Chrissy Martin was on his undercard.
An incredible fighter.
Yeah.
She was a top female model as well, I believe. She was a glamour model of some description. Yeah. Very attractive lady. Yeah.
And I've watched a documentary on I think Netflix or something, whatever it was on, and she says that Mike Tyson, Don King was kind of like, oh no, trying to, you know, forget about you and all that lot. And Mike apparently said, no, look, you know, that's my one request, that she's on my undercard.
She could fight.
He said she can fight.
She could fight. Yeah. She was another advocate and president, like Jane Couch. She's a president as well, with her achievements standing up to the governing bodies. Yeah. You know, Jane Couch here, Christy Martin there. But you got to admire them and respect them, because their courage. You know, they carry us for 9 months, so we know they're tough.
Oh, definitely.
You know, we know women are tough because of what they have to endure. And they say about the pain threshold, like if you see, they say about power, they compare car power to horsepower, right? They say pain threshold, if they compare pain threshold, they compare it to what a woman goes through giving birth. So that obviously is a pain threshold that women endure. So getting punched in the boxing ring is nothing compared to what they endure giving birth. So they are a tough breed, you know, and I admire them and respect them so much. Yeah. In the beginning, I wasn't a fan because I didn't want to see them getting wounded or injured. You know,
it feels unnatural though sometimes. You know, it's taken you know a good few years to actually sort of get your head round, because we're brought up to protect women.
Yeah.
Not to watch them fight. And I think it's only now that some of the class has come through, and like we're saying, we've seen some unbelievable fights where you actually go, this is legit. Right?
Peter Fury's training a girl at the moment. Is it Savannah Marshall?
Savannah Marshall.
Yeah. I like her.
She can fight.
Yeah. Oh, what a fighter.
She can fight.
What a fighter.
Yeah.
She's got personality as well.
Oh, yeah, lovely.
Yeah, I like her.
I've watched her being interviewed.
Yeah.
I've watched her being interviewed. But there's so many incredible female boxers out there. But there's so many incredible females out there. But the suffragettes did what they did so that women have the platform and the stage to do what they want to do.
be equals.
Yeah.
One of my favourite things I think of, someone put a post up when the English football team, the women, they went and won the World Cup or the Euros? They won
European champions.
Yeah,
they got beaten in the World Cup.
That's it. European
But an
champion.
incredible performance.
Phenomenal. And
They lost to the team that they'd beaten in the Euro. They lost to Spain, I think.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They
1-0,
did.
yeah.
But they beat Spain in the European Championships.
Yeah, they beat
So
them.
that's what they say, the look of a bounceable ball.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But they had this big post, and it was kind of the men going for the Euros, and you could see the women saying, "Oh, will you reach that trophy for me? Will you reach that trophy?" And then the next bit is, "Oh, don't worry, we get it ourselves." Went and got it. You know what I mean? Went and won the Euros. I thought, fair play.
The nation was behind them. The nation was behind them because they gave a lot of joy.
Yeah.
They gave a lot of joy. The English soccer, the men's soccer team have been disappointing, you know, for the talent that they've got.
Yeah.
For the talent that they've got. And they've got world-class talent, the men's soccer team, but they just don't seem to gel. And that's the great thing about boxing, because you're in there on your own. It doesn't matter about gelling. You've got to gel with your trainers, obviously, your corner men and stuff like that. They help you prepare for the fight. But when the bell goes, you're in there on your own. So you've got no one else to blame. Yeah. If it's not your night, it's not your night. If it's your opponent's night, it's your opponent's night, you know. But there's an old saying, the biggest fool is the fool that fools himself. And if you cut corners in training, it's going to show on the night that you fight, you know. And sometimes you've got an 11-man soccer team, and you could be the most disciplined, dedicated member of that team, but the other 10 aren't disciplined or dedicated.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how good you are, you're going to be let down by the other 10.
Yeah.
When you're in that boxing ring or on that mat or in that cage, you're on your own. And if you cut corners, it will show on the night. And that's what I respect and admire about they say it's the loneliness of a fighter in that ring. I was never lonely in the boxing ring because there was always somebody hitting me, you know, so I was never lonely. But it is hard when you're in there on your own.
You find out who you are as well, though, don't you? You find out what you're about.
Oh,
you
yeah.
find out who you are.
Yeah.
You know, the real you is there. You know, when it's not going your way, or when this has gone on, or when you have been hit with a shot, you think, you know, the real you comes out. Am I going to come back out again and be, I'm on this, or am I going to kind of carry away? And I think you find out what you're about. You know?
I fought this Italian twice. Luigi Guadiano, European champion, as an amateur. And I fought him in Dublin, this particular fight. I wasn't 100% for whatever reason. I've been working the doors.
Yeah.
Had a bit of a chill on me. Got a bit of a chill on me at the moment. Excuse me, that's why I'm using a handkerchief. My nose is running a little bit. Because sometimes when you're training early morning, a bit of cold, you know, over the winter I've been training. And got a bit of a chill. So when I fought Luigi, I wasn't 100%. I was a little bit run down with a cold. And he caught me in round 3. And caught me in the nose, and the blood was I was bleeding. I was bleeding very heavy, and I was tired because we'd had 2 hard rounds, and I was tired, and I was sucking in oxygen through my nose, and the blood went down the back of my throat, and I spat my gum shield out, and I know the blood came out as well. It was a horrible sensation, and referee jumped in. I said, I'm okay. It's just a bit of blood that I'd swallowed and stuff. Gave me the count. Said, you know, are you okay? I said, yeah, but I was hurt. But Luigi Guadiano's eyes had lit up because he could see I was in trouble. And it can be a very cruel sport, you know, because he's got to come in and finish it off.
Yeah.
You know, he's coming in to finish me off. And I thought, well, I don't want to be getting hurt anymore. And I regret what I've done. I shouldn't have done it, but hit him low. So get a bit of respite. And I leaned to the side and I hit him an uppercut. It was aimed at the belly, but it hit him low. And the referee stopped for a split second, pushed me into the corner. He's gone to the knee because I've hit him a hard punch to the goolies, and gave him a count. let him get his oxygen, let him get his composure. But it gave me enough respite. I got stopped shortly afterwards anyway because I was in a bad way. But he didn't hurt me anymore.
Yeah.
You know, because I couldn't breathe properly. And like I said, I wasn't 100%. But it's a cruel sport.
Yeah.
But it's still just a sport, you know. I don't condone cheating.
Yeah.
But I just didn't want to be hurt anymore.
Yeah.
He'd hurt me enough in the 2 previous rounds. And at that stage, I was there for the taking. And when I saw his eyes lit up like he'd hit the jackpot, I thought,
I'm not having that.
I'm not here.
Definitely.
You know.
Definitely.
This will slow him down a bit.
Yeah. Took the wind out of his sails. Took the wind out of his sails for a few seconds, and it didn't hurt me anymore. I've been hurt so many times in the boxing ring. But it is a lonely place when you're on the receiving end. But see, when you go back to your corner, and you get that little bit of respite, and you get a little bit of a pep talk from your corner man, you get the smelling salts. And a lot of it is psychological as well, you know, because I used to believe in my mind that if I could take Mike Tyson's punishment and Lennox Lewis's punishment, I could take anybody's punishment. So there's loads of times when I was on the stool, my cornerman wanted to retire me. I wouldn't retire on my stool. Didn't mind if the referee stopped me. I got stopped on a few occasions by the referee. It's not so as embarrassing, it's not so shame, you know, than quitting on your stool.
You couldn't come out. Yeah.
No. That's why when Ricky Hatton won the title against Costa Zoy, I was at that fight with my 2 brothers, and Costa Zoy sat on the stool, and Ricky won the title while he was sitting on his stool. And I thought Costa should have come out, gone to his knee, and let Ricky stand over him and raise his arms. He'd earned the right to do that. Costa has stood over many men.
Yeah.
And I believe that he should have, even though he didn't want to take a punch, just let the bell go and go to your knee and let Ricky not find out that he's become the champion sitting on his
He's
stool.
sitting on a stool because it was a split second before he knew, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
And I just think to myself, why didn't Costa Zoy do that? There was men that came out of their corners against him when they were hurt, and he stood over them.
Yeah.
And I just thought, give the man the right to stand over you. He's earned that right. He's given 11 hard rounds. I think it was in between 11 and 12th round.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I know there can be damage done if another punch lands, but don't let the punch land. The bell go and go to your knee. And just, or even put your guard up and take a shot in the gloves and then just go to your knee. And let Ricky have that moment.
Have
where
the
he's
moment.
Yes.
He'd worked his arse off to be
Bloody
fair,
right
hadn't
he had.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I just think that when Ricky's looking across, he's not coming out. And there's been a few fights like that over time, you know. I just think you've earned the right to stand over your opponent if they're on the knee.
Which, you know what, I think brings us on to a perfect moment to say, Joe, we've got all our cameras rolling there. How about one more shout for John and see if we can get him to take the bait?
Maybe it's not a good note to be talking about standing over somebody on the deck. This isn't going to encourage him because I do believe, but all fighters believe they can win. I do believe I got the beatings of John Fury, you know, but I'd like to box John. I would like to box John. It's one last hurrah, 58, something to train for. And it'd be good for John as well, you know, to have something to train for. He's called out any 58-year-old on the planet brave enough to fight him. I'm brave enough, you know. So I believe that I could put him down. I believe that I could stand over him and beat him in the boxing ring. And it's funny, can I just tell one story about getting put down, right? When my dad used to call me for my runs, I used to hate going running. And Dad used to say to me, drag yourself out of bed. It's like getting off the deck when you're on the deck. Dragging yourself out of bed on a cold winter's morning. He said it's the same as dragging yourself off the deck. And he said, Dad, no one's going to put me down. My chin is granite and my legs are strong. My dad must have experienced being put down at one time in his life. And I never believed it could happen to me until it did happen to me. I was boxing in the Acropolis Games. It was an international tournament. I beat the Italian who'd already beaten me in Dublin. And I beat a Canadian. So I had 2 hard fights. And I'm in the semi-finals. I'm in the bronze medals. The Greek had got a bye in the first fight. And he's now into the semi-finals after having 1 fight. I'm after having 2 hard fights. So if they didn't allow me to box, he would have had 2 buys, 1 fight into the final against the man, as it turned out, was the Dutch man that was after boxing 3 times. So my left eye was badly damaged from 2 hard fights. My cornermen, Mickey Hawkins and Jerry Hanna, they said, we don't want you to fight, Joe. I said, let the doctor tell me I'm not able to fight. I'm ready to fight. I'm in the bronze medal stage. If I win, I'm into the final. The worst I'm going to get is a silver medal. Let the doctor tell me that I'm not able to fight. So I've gone in to see the doctor. Doctor didn't even look at my eye because he knew he had to allow me to fight because the Greek would have had 2 boys into the final. Yeah. So I've come out of the medical. Cornermen are saying, well, I said, he's allowed me to fight. I'm fighting. I knew I only had 1 round before my left eye completely closed. So I've gone in, hammering tongs in the first round. I'm throwing punches hell for leather against a tank of a man. Georgios Stephanopoulos, the Greek. I'd no chance of denting his armour. Like, he was just incredible, tough as nails. So I've gone back to my corner after round 1. My left eye is now completely closed. I can't see out of my left eye. But I can see out of my right eye. My 2 cornermen will retire me on my stool. I said, no, I'm not quitting on my stool. Winners never quit and quitters never win. I'm going out for round 2. I can see out of 1 eye. So I've gone out for round 2. I didn't see the punch coming. Blindside, with my left eye closed, he's landed a cracking shot. I've probably been hit by better punches, but this one I didn't see coming. And I'm flat on my back. I'm completely out cold. I don't know, I didn't feel it. I'm lying on my back, and I'm like this, looking for my bed sheets. I'm in bed. I'm lying in my bed. I'm like this, looking for my bed sheets, flat on my back. My 2 cornermen, Mickey Hawkins and Jerry Hanna, they thought I was calling them into the ring. I wasn't. I'm looking for my bed sheets. I roll over onto my side. From the time he hit me on my chin, or hit me on the cheekbone, wherever he hit me, I didn't see the punch coming. To the time I fell, to the time I rolled over onto my left-hand side, with my right eye open, it's at least 15 seconds. Because I saw the referee go 5. So I was unconscious asleep for 15 seconds. It was the strangest feeling in the world. So now with my right eye, I see the referee go 5. I thought, I'm on the deck here. I didn't even know. So I got myself to my feet. At that stage, my 2 cornermen were in the ring because they thought I was calling them into the ring. I wasn't. I was looking for a bed sheet. And I fell into their arms. But I got beat on my feet. I lost to the eventual gold medalist. But I remember phoning my dad. And I said, Dad, I won a bronze medal. He said, well done, son. I said, Dad, remember you told me dragging yourself off out of the bed is like dragging yourself off the deck when you get deck. You got deck, son? I said, yeah, Dad, I got decked. I got put down in round 2. But I got up and I got beat on my feet. But I won a bronze medal. He said, well done, son. And there's a song, Fighter's Pride. Stand up and fight. Fight like hell. Stand up and fight until you hear that final bell. I didn't get to hear the final bell that day. But it was still the greatest feeling in the world to be in the ring, exchanging punches with the future Olympic, World Acropolis Games gold medalist who got a medal in the Olympics at a later stage, and an incredible fighter, Georgios Stephanopoulos. After he put me down, the Irish lads were calling him Georgios Step on top of us because, but it's just fun. But yeah, I've experienced winning and I've experienced losing. But to me, it's just the greatest sport in the world, and it's just sport, you know. But all I ever wanted to do was do my dad proud in the boxing. My acting has made my mum proud. Sadly, I lost both my parents in 2022. I lost my dad April 24th. He died on his 85th birthday. And my mum on December 28th. It was a bad year. But all I wanted to do was do them proud, you know. I remember when I'd done Celebrity Eggheads. Have I got time for another quick story?
Yeah, go for it.
I'd done Celebrity Eggheads. And I left school, as I said earlier on, when I was 14. I was on the doors at 15. I'm not very academic. So I got asked by my agent what to do. Eggheads. I said, I'm no good at quizzes. So they said, no, come on, Joe. You're with Willie Thorne, Peter Shilton, Jeff Capes and Paul Dixon. 4 superstars. So I thought, great. So got to the show, flew us up to Scotland, got to the show, and I was hoping to get TV and film because I know a bit about TV and film and I know about sport, but they gave me food and drink, and I don't drink alcohol, but I know a bit about food. So the first question, and I hadn't got a clue, I went the middle, and I got it right. was so relieved to get one question right. Mastermind champion, Brain of Britain, gets his question right. Second question they asked me, haven't got a clue. I went the middle again, because they give you the 3 options. So I've gone the middle again. Got it right. Couldn't believe it. 2 right out of 3. He gets his right. Mastermind champion, Brain of Britain. Expected to get his right. Third question they asked me, where's the avocado from? I said, the avocado's a pear. I said, my dad used to encourage me to eat them when I was boxing because they're full of goodness. So I used to eat them with yogurt. I used to mix it with yogurt. It didn't taste very nice, the avocado, but I used to mix it with the yogurt. Take the sting off the taste. But it's very good for you. So I said, well, give me the clues. So they went Australasia, the Americas, or Europe. So I thought, I can't be the middle again. So I went Australasia, and it turned out to be the Americas. So I got it wrong. Mastermind champion, Brain of Britain gets his right. So they went, Joe, well done. You've pushed the Mastermind, Brain of Britain champion to the wire. I was so chuffed, proud. So I'm up in the green room, in front of Willie Thorne, Peter Shilton, Jeff Capes and Paul Dixon. I phoned my dad. I said, Dad, I got 2 questions right out of 3. He said, well done, son. I said, Dad, they said I pushed the Mastermind champion to the wire. He said, son, it doesn't say much for the Mastermind champion now. You pushed him to the wire. He took the shine off me. But the lads broke that laughing. But listen, I could keep talking. But thank you for today, Brett. Thank you for today, Jim.
No, thanks for coming down here.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure, because I got talking about different things that I don't normally talk about. And it's a nice feeling to not just talk about what I usually talk about, to talk about other things. And I've enjoyed today. I really have.
It's been nice. It's been an absolute pleasure.
I'm sure we'll have you back as well, yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course.
We'd love to, yeah.
Because there's so much more that I could talk about. They say you kiss the Blarney Stone in Ireland to get the gift of the gab. I think I must have took a bite out of it, because I'm a good talker. But it's got me out of a lot of trouble in my life. You know, when I stood on the doors, I talked my way out of a lot of violence. Sometimes, unfortunately, I wasn't able to talk my way out of it. But I've always tried to be a peacekeeper. And that's why I admire the likes of the Gandhis.
I think it comes through, to be fair, Joe. When you talk, I think it comes through. You can
well, even with the John Fury, I haven't disrespected him in my response to him. I won't. Only the last videos that I've called him a coward, because he has called me names. Do you understand? And I hate, it's killing me inside to call a fighting man, a man that has stood up and fought, a coward. It's killing me inside. I hate saying it. And I mean that. But I want to box him, right? Because he said things about me. Even when he described me, he wasn't calling me by my name. He was calling me them and they. I've earned the right to be called by my name. Do you understand? And that's why I said, John, call me by my name. Do you understand? My name is Joe Egan. Named after my dad. He was named after his dad. You know, I come from a long line of Joe Egans. I'm not a they or a them. And that's why I've been angry a bit with what he's been saying. And I've had to say a couple of things. I don't curse. Very seldom. I'll tell you one story. Can I tell you one quick story? About hardship. Mike Tyson used to speak to my mum on the phone, on and off, for 22 years. They'd never met. Now, I know John has experienced hardship in his life. I've experienced hardship in my life. Like I said, it's not a pity train I'm on, you know. But I'm doing okay in my life now. You know, I've got good bosses and I've got a good wife. And my life is okay. I don't know how good John's is. I think it's a lot better than what he makes out to be. You know, he's got heavyweight champion of the world, making a lot of money. So I'm sure he minds his dad. But talk about hardship and humble beginnings. This particular day, Mike Tyson said to me, "How's your mother doing, Joe?" I said, "She's not so good, Mike." "It's all on the internet. You can watch this on the internet. I'm not telling lies." He said, "Let's go and visit your mum, Joe." I said, "Okay." She had a lump removed from my neck. My Uncle Brian had died at 47 of cancer, never smoked in his life. My mum's a smoker. She's not with us anymore, got rest up. But we were very concerned it was cancer. So we've landed in Dublin. Me, Mike, Scott Welch, who's your friend, Jim, and ex-British and Commonwealth heavyweight champion, fought 12 rounds for the world title against Henry Akamwanda, who was the man that knocked out John Fury. Yeah. So, and my wife, we've landed in Dublin. My mother had been released from the hospital because she wasn't, at the time in the hospital was the MRSA book, and she wasn't able to look after herself. She was fragile, so they released her to her sister's house, my Auntie Linda's house. So she's now in a house, on a housing estate where my family had been evicted from. I'll tell you that story another time when I come onto the show. So now I'm going onto this housing estate where me and my family had been evicted on this housing estate. I'm now going on with one of the greatest heavyweight champions of all time to visit my mother in my auntie's house. And he's now there in the presence of my mother, a woman that he'd been speaking to on and off for 22 years but they'd never met. And he embraced her. Now this is a man that can break bones with punches. I've seen him break bones with punches. He smashed me to bits, embracing a fragile woman. And the topic came up of birthdays. And my mum's birthday was the 12th of July. Mike's birthday is the 30th of June. And we're both of the same birth sign, Cancer. And he said, Mrs. Egan, he said, I remember on my 18th birthday, because me and Mike had been together when we were 17. So this was his first birthday that he'd had while we were together. He said, you sent over a shoebox with some potato chips, Irish Tato crisps, some money in an envelope. Would have been very little money in the envelope. And some sweatshirts, some second-hand sweatshirts, 22 years previous. And my mum looked at Mike and she said, Mike, you remember that? He said, yes, I remember that, Mrs. Egan. He said, very few people have given me anything in my life. Yes, I remember that. Scott Welch and my wife got choked up. They had to leave the room. I broke down crying. Now, Mike had made me cry so many times. He'd battered me so many times. And he looked at me. My mother's crying as well at this stage. He's embraced my mother and he looked at me. Excuse the language. He goes, Joe, motherfucker, you're always crying. He made me cry so many times. But this is a man that could have been a billionaire athlete, remembering a couple of packets of crisps, a couple of second-hand sweatshirts and a couple of pounds in an envelope. I guarantee you, both of you, Brett and Jim, you would not remember what you got 22 years ago for a present, because I can't.
That's right.
So it shows you what it meant to that man. And when I tell people about humble beginnings, no more as any person that I've ever met had more humble beginnings than Mike Tyson, running the streets of Brownsville as a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old. I lived in Brooklyn for a while, I lived in Bay Ridge, and I know Brownsville. And it was ripe with criminals, killers, murders, you name it. And a child running them streets, trying to fend for himself, to make ends meet, to feed himself. I don't envy the introduction into this world that Mike Tyson's had. And then even with his achievements as winning the world heavyweight title, the youngest ever heavyweight champion of the world, after Cuss died, I don't think we saw the best of Mike. I think the best of Mike died when Cuss D'Amato died. Cuss never saw him win the world title. After Mike won the world title, the parasites, for want of another word, the scum involved with boxing, because ripped him off and abused him, because it's the only sport in the world where the lambs rule the lions. Yeah. And you've got so many parasites, so many scum powers in the sport that abuse the fighters. And Mike has been abused. And even more what he's achieved in his boxing, I don't envy his life. I don't envy his introduction into the world, and I don't envy what he's had to endure in his life. I feel quite sad for the man. You know, the powers that be can stand idly by and let him be abused by the system. He was, yeah.
Really badly.
And that's why I'm chuffed to bits, like we spoke earlier on, that even at this stage of his life, that he's still entertaining the masses. He's still earning the tens of millions through the success of the YouTubers, through the success of the Jake Pauls and the KSIs and the Misfits and the other people involved. And I'm so chuffed for Mike that even in his twilight years, that he's still able to hold centre stage and achieve and earn the money that these YouTubers...
He's still the headline man.
Oh, he's incredible. And that's why I'm delighted with these YouTubers able to do that for him. Yeah. You know, they paid for the Roy Jones fight. The YouTubers paid for that. Yeah. You know, the Pauls and the KSIs and all, they paid for that. And they're paying to bring him out now again on Netflix. And it's great.
I must admit, I'm not too disappointed to see Mike again in the ring.
Oh,
I love it. I love it. I mean, I've got a weird kind of thing because my dad was deaf. So me and my dad, we used to sit and watch boxing together, a lot of boxing. My dad was a massive Mike Tyson fan. And it was always our time together. So I was always into different things, you know, to what my dad was. But we always had this eating. My dad never drank. He would have a cup of tea. He'd sit and have a cup of tea, and we'd sit and watch Mike Tyson fight. You know, we might watch it in the early hours of the morning on Sky Sports and stuff like that. And that was our little time. So to see him fight again, I'll be on my own this time, sadly, because my dad's no longer here. But it will be a little throwback for me. I might even have a cup of tea and watch it and just say, you know what,
Reminisce.
this is me and my dad. Do you know what I mean? I can't wait.
For me, the most exciting fighter we'll ever see. You know, and I think Cuss, if he lived another 5 years, I think we would have rewrote the history books.
I think he could have ruled the world. The Klitschko's
all
ruled the world for 10 years, and he was better than them. He could have ruled the world for as long as he wanted if Cuss had stayed alive. I remember when I came home from America, I used to come home at different times. But this particular year, I came home and had a boxer dog. I love boxer dogs. My mum and dad used to breed boxer dogs when I was a kid, and we grew up with boxer dogs. And I had a boxer puppy at the time, and I called him Tyson. And people said to me, "That's a stupid name for a dog, Joe." I said, "You listen to me. There'll be a lot of dogs called Tyson in the future."
100%.
You know, yeah. I remember writing to different people. I wrote to different people as in the Catskills. One in particular was Steve Collins. Me and Steve are friends since we've been kids. I boxed him twice as growing up as kids. He beat me both times, but he went on to win 2 world titles. No shame in losing to him. He was a year and a half older than me, so when you're a kid, a year and a half makes a big difference. But he's an incredible fighter. But I remember writing to Steve saying, "I'm training with the future heavyweight champion of the world." I knew at 17 Mike was special because of the way he hurt me, the power that he had, the speed that he had. So I saw what Cuss saw. You know, Cuss saw it first. Cuss predicted even as a young boy, 14, 15, he said, "That boy there is the future heavyweight champ of the world." I said it when he was 17. There was a few other people that said it at the same time. But how right was Cuss?
He saw it, didn't he?
He was an incredible human being, Cuss. An incredible human being. But listen, I keep talking. I'm sorry, you've got to close the show.
No, all good, Joe. No problem at all.
It's been great. Thank you for having me on. And
It's been fantastic seeing you. Honestly, we'll have to do it again.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
There's
all
so
day
much
long,
I think we can cover.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, I think we could do about 8 hours.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I really enjoyed it. And I mean that, not just promoting.
No,
I really mean that. I've
enjoyed your
enjoyed
company,
today.
Joe.
Thank you.
Top man, Joe.
Top man, Joe.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
Thank you very
Good
much.
man,
Thank
Joe.
you.
Big Joe Egan.
What a man.
Oh, thank you.